Hello, everybody. This is Pitchdeck Asia. My name's Graham Brown. Today, we're talking about startups and hiring. Because you may or may not know, as a startup founder, the biggest challenge isn't raising funds. That's quite easy today in the current climate. The harder challenge is finding good people to work for your startup. Finding people who want to be part of this adventure, want to go and put a dent in the universe, as Steve Jobs puts it. Hey, Pratana, how's it going? You've come joining the studio team here today to talk about some of the people that we've had on the Pitchdeck Asia show in the last year. And importantly, those that have successfully hired. And what did they do right? Because it's not about putting an ad out there or necessarily, hiring a headhunter to find people for your startup. That's part of it. But the key is storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with startups, they are somewhat in between, that they can't afford the headhunters.
Yeah.
But then they also can't afford wasting their time.
Yeah.
If they just put a job ad out there, they'll be just having, people, job
Bombarded.
applicants, just lots of CVs, a lot of resumes, and they don't have time or they don't have money. And that's where storytelling comes into place. And that's where our show also comes into place. So let's talk about Zave. Let's start with that. Alan Schmall.
Yeah, we like Alan. Let's get his pitch deck up. So Alan Schmall, Zave. A little bit of background. Alan is from the world of investment banking.
Yeah.
Worked for Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. And Zave is a technology platform which helps startups with all their corporate secretarial and fiduciary responsibilities. And on the face of it, all due respect, Alan, it's quite a dry subject. So, making that sexy is a challenge. But the key to this really isn't trying to make corporate secretarial or software sexy. It's about telling your story. And Alan's got a great team, and he's successfully hired a number of people in the last few months to grow that team. And it all comes down to telling a simple story about, who you are, where you're heading to, why you're doing it. And it doesn't matter if you are building a platform for corporate secretarial, or you are, like we talked about in the other review shows, like, an employee reward scheme for seafarers, which is really dry, or digital custody, asset management, and so on. Again, these are very neutral subjects. The key is about the people and the stories that you tell.
Exactly. And in fact, with startups, because they're always pivoting in the beginning, trying to find the right business model and trying to find the right market also. That is the reason why they want the people on the team who are adaptable and are not just after the benefits.
Yeah,
the
there's plenty of the
salary
benefit
seeking.
seekers out there. Yeah.
Exactly. And we have had couple of hundreds. Yeah.
Oh, we've hired as well. We've hired
Yeah.
some great people, and we've seen a lot come. And I don't think the key is telling a story. Really is about that. You also attract the right people, the right mindset, people who want more than just a job.
Yeah.
By telling the right story. And I think at a certain level, where you're dealing with talent, is they seek out the stories that match what they're trying to do as well. So, it's important to get out. It's a sales process, right? I think, that's what you have to, reconfirm to startup founders. Like when they come on the show, they're selling themselves, not just to raise funds, but to attract talent, right?
Yeah, I think one of the times when it was always the job seekers coming up to you, it's the other way. And in fact, so we have done like 2 Startup Work Asia career fairs, and in those we try to turn the table around, in which the startup founders had to pitch to the attendees, and later the attendees just went to them and had a chat. So that was, we felt, a more effective way, so that they attract the right talent, the people who are saying the right things. Plus, they know about the startup before they actually jump into it. They know what they're getting into.
Yeah. Do you remember the first one we did? And I think the first presentation was Ned from Bamboo,
Oh,
correct?
yes, that was really good one.
He just got swamped afterwards. So a little bit of context. So Ned Phillips is one of the founders of Bamboo, which is a robo-advisor. It's a fintech startup. Again, another dry subject. How do you get really good people to work for your team? And yet Ned stood up just being Ned, you know, and Ned's a wannabe stand-up comic as well, because I know him quite well, so I know what his secret passions are. And he stood up and he didn't do a stand-up, a sketch. He did like just him in his sort of like life. And he stood up and said, I think, like, with all due respect, Ned, if I've got it wrong, he said something like, I'm 51 years old. Like, started off with that, which is quite rare to hear from an employee or a recruiter, right? He said, I'm 51 years old. This is what's happened in my life so far. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm trying to do. These are the kind of people that really I'm looking for, who are passionate about X, Y, and Z. I want you to come and be part of this team. These are the kind of things that you're going to work on. It's not corporate world. I've come from that. I used to work for E-Trade and some of the largest, like Thomson Reuters, some of the largest information products companies in the world. It's not about that, but this is what it's about. You're not going to get all the kind of fluffy benefits that you would at Thomson Reuters, but you're going to get this responsibility, meaning, and so on. And it was a very honest pitch.
He also mentioned about how the people who started with him is still with him all the way now.
That was important.
And even if a couple of them have left, they have left to start their own business. So that is the kind of growth that the people in his team has experienced. In fact, this is actually one of the things that I loved about when I was our first conversation, when you told me it was like an interview, but you told me about the learning curve and what I'll be experiencing here. And this is one of the things we also share with the new recruits in our team. So we say that, okay, it's more like a learning curve in which the first few weeks you are experiencing everything, getting your hands dirty, just doing task-based job. And then after that, you'll start working on projects. And after that, it's a more strategic thing. So if these kind of small things you're able to tell or communicate with the people out there, that is a kind of story, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
if you're able to communicate this then, you will be attracted by the right talent, and especially by fresh graduates who are really passionate about it. They want this kind of an experience, a learning experience that they can't find in corporates otherwise.
Yeah.
So
and you'll scare the wrong ones off.
Yeah, exactly. So the ones who are not the hustlers or think,
or don't want to do the hard work. I mean, in the sense that hard work's fine, but I don't want to talk to customers because I've got an MBA.
So
there's plenty of those out there.
That is the power of storytelling, right? In hiring. It
comes down to, we talked about this on the last review show, is that, when it comes to storytelling, don't tell people what you're building. No, did I get that right? I've got that wrong, right? Don't tell people what you do, tell people what you want to build.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
It was kind of half right, but I told it in the wrong way, which is like what storytelling's all about, telling it in the right way. Tell people what you're going to build. So whether that is pitching for investment, i.e., this is what we are now, but this is the world like in the future and how we're going to change it. And also with recruitment as well, this is like how we want to, work together in the future and what we want you to be and become in this journey as well. And the right people to respond to that. I think Ned did a great job of that with a very simple story and through, example.
Yeah. And then those people who were just huddling around him, like,
he got swarmed like a rock star. He said to me, he WhatsApped me afterwards and said, Graham, that was amazing. I was like a rock star. I said, Ned, you are a rock star.
And then people wanted to work for him because that's the kind of impression he created.
Yeah. And that's what it all will be about for those kind of companies, is at the end of the day, how can they attract and retain the best talent? Because at the end of the day, nothing's going to differentiate them from the next guys, apart from the people that they've got in their team.
Yeah, it's the people ultimately who are your brands, right? So
I believe in that.
You do believe in that.
Plus, I posted about it today. Okay, so who else do we have? Who else has been in the studio that's successfully? We
have Stuart Kerr from Rod Human Devices.
Yeah,
now
they've rebranded.
Yeah, they have rebranded now.
Yeah. You want me to do a little bit about Stuart?
Yeah.
So Stuart's again, it's the same with him. He's an honest guy. He's trying to do something interesting and talking about what he wants to build. So he builds medical devices for hearing loss. Ex-Dyson so he knows a few things about design and technology. And again, like he's competing with, you can imagine every single startup who is recruiting software engineers and what have you. So he can't pay the salaries of Facebook or Grab or Uber or whoever. So the reason why people are going to work for him is the story that he tells. And they get it. They understand if they work for a smaller startup, they're going to get a lot more exposure, a lot more responsibility, and they're going to grow faster in the longer term, right? And that's what he sells. So he doesn't actually say it like that when he tells his story. He just tells an honest story. And when he came in the studio, he did this about, I'm just this engineer who's passionate about building stuff, and this is what I want to do. And I see this problem of people who have this sort of bone conductive hearing loss.
Yeah.
And this is how I want to do it. And this is the products I'm working on. And it's not finished yet, right? There's a long way to go. But that appeals to the right people. The fact that it's not fully baked product appeals to a lot of people, that they feel that they can make their mark on this, right? Rather than, okay, here's the product, go and sell it.
Yeah. You can be part of the whole journey.
Exactly.
You can be part of the, if it blows up, it's, it's
You're
better.
part of that as well.
Yeah. It's better to, jump on the board earlier than later.
Yeah. So that's good. I mean, have a look at Stuart's story, and he's gone through a number of raises as well and recruited a number of people. Well, he was starting out as himself, so it was just him and his devices, right? And he didn't even have a working prototype when he came on the show. So good for him. It's a good example of selling. Especially, I think the challenge is if you're an engineer or you're a nuts and bolts person, like storytelling is often something like you don't have it in your experience or your nature. It's quite hard. Because you just think about making stuff every day, and you're busy, you're head down in the weeds of what you do. So actually trying to package that stuff is quite hard. But that's okay if you're in Dyson. If you work for Dyson, you have a whole great big department doing that for you. When it's just like little old me making my thing, now you have to do the storytelling. Now you don't have 100 MBAs running around doing SWOT analysis and campaigns for you.
So, Graham, what advice would you give to those kind of tech savvy people who are just into the business and working day in, day out? How should they tell their story to attract the right talent?
Yeah. So yesterday we did a workshop for an accelerator, a cybersecurity accelerator here in Singapore. So very much they're of that mindset, which is, very much product first, very technical people, very, very high level of technical skill there. So in that sense, those people spend most of their time focusing on, zeros and ones, programming and so on. And storytelling comes at the end of it. And I think with those guys, what we found when they sat down and actually wrote out their story, one of the key breakthroughs was saying, what is the problem and who is it for?
Yeah.
And then what does it do for them? And breaking it down in that sense. So they know the problem, but they've never articulated it. I have this piece of technology and it's great, and therefore people will buy it. It doesn't work like that. But when they actually said, look, for example, cybercrime is a $35 billion problem. Or
you can go to jail.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Yeah.
If you're a director of a company in New Zealand now, and you get hit by a cyber attack, and you haven't taken the right, reasonable steps to secure your data, you can go to jail.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was a director of a company, which I am, but not in New Zealand, I would be scared. But to start with that, so that's a story. To start with that, you've got people's attention. And there were some really good examples of that. And, even in 3 hours working with those startups, we went from, this is what I build to this is the story. And there were a lot of breakthroughs even in 3 hours. So the point being is that it's doable, it's possible. If you just start by, start with the problem.
Interesting. So also, when you were starting out a year back, 13, 14 months back, so how was your experience with hiring here in Singapore?
It was quite tough, yeah. No, I didn't find any good people.
You
apart
didn't.
from you two.
You didn't
think-
find at all. Okay.
No, I mean, I'm joking. But
Yeah.
a lot of noise,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of job seekers,
Yeah.
and not their fault. I don't think people know
Mm.
the alternative. I think that if you're a startup founder, you're all in.
Hmm.
You cannot be a startup founder and be like half like, oh, I need a salary and benefits, and you can't be like that. You've got to be all in. You're taking a massive risk. So you're now having to communicate that to people who might not get it.
Hmm.
And do they not get it because they'll never get it, or do they not get it because they've never been exposed to it? Which is another matter. Which, for example, if you're surrounded by entrepreneurs, if you like grew up and your dad was an entrepreneur, or your like your mum had her own business and so on, then like for you, entrepreneurship was natural. Therefore, you got it. Yet, if you never had that exposure, maybe you don't know what entrepreneurship is and what startups are, and therefore that's okay. But if you then get exposed to it and you still don't get it, then you don't belong there. So I think the issue here, as in a lot of Asian countries, is that there's a lot of people who haven't yet been exposed to it.
Yeah, they're programmed in such a way also that, okay, these are the set of questions you should be asking.
Yeah,
This is how the resume should look like.
yeah, and that's understandable, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
they're looking for jobs, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I lived in Japan long enough to know that that is how you get a job, right? It's a formula that you follow. And so therefore, there's a bit of work from the startup founders side, which is that is the person you're sitting with, have they just not had the chance to be part of that kind of environment, or do they just not want to be part of it?
Yeah.
And you want that group here, all the ones who are already in on that. I want to take some risk.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand, like you understand that they're trained in a way, so you have to kind of untrain it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So the storytelling is a key part of that, because storytelling, penetrates all of that. Like you get a story, like you like Avengers, right? Yeah, I know you guys like Avengers around here. So like you don't have to speak a certain language, or you don't have to be of a certain culture. You get stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a really important part of getting through the crap.
Yeah.
And getting to the point.
And then I think one part is obviously for the founders to tell the story, but also we have like hundreds of such stories on pitchdeck.asia. So if anyone is actually looking for jobs,
Yeah.
in startups, especially if you want that kind of an experience, they can always go there and check out the pitches and just drop a message on LinkedIn maybe. And founders are not scary.
No.
Yeah, they
Some
would.
are, but
Yeah, they would love to have a chat and just a conversation,
Yeah.
obviously according to their scheduling and how busy they are. But still, just drop a message and say that, hey, I listened to your podcast and it was really great, and I would love to, just have a
Yeah.
chat. So
that works.
So for all these people who are looking for jobs now, what are the tips for them? Because as a founder, what would you like to see in them?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious ones are do your research.
Yeah.
Don't turn up and say like you don't know anything about the company. Right, that's like, okay, goodbye. That's the end of the interview. That's the quickest way to end an interview.
Mm-hmm.
Do your research. Like watch the podcast, watch Pitchdeck Asia if you've seen them. Find out a bit about this person. And that already puts you in the top 5% of applicants as far as I'm concerned, because like 95% don't know that can be done, right? So do that. And I think importantly as well is that as much as storytelling is startup founders pitching their story, as a job applicant, you should tell your story.
Yeah.
And they don't train people to do this, right? And, you've got to have a reason why you're here. Like, there's a reason why this all makes sense. And it's tough, right? Because I know, like, in Steve Jobs' style, it's all about, joining the dots when you're sort of, like, at the latter half of your life, right? It's quite hard when you're just starting out. But you should really focus on, like, okay, you've got all these kind of experiences which are just like random, which they are when you're young. Like you did this, and you did that, and you went here, and you took this course, and it doesn't make sense. So when you present it to a founder or an employer, they just look at it and say, well, it doesn't make sense. Like, you didn't do like what I would consider like this sort of escalator track of career where you go to a good school, take the MBA, management training, boom, you're into the large corporate, right? Most people don't do that. So they just have all this kind of random collection of points. And then it's up to the founder to work it out and take a risk on you. But what you should do is put all that together and say, look, rather than the fact I did this, you come to an interview and you say, you know, this is what I want to do. And this is part of that story, right?
Yeah.
And like, I've tried these things and I've learned these things and I've made some mistakes and I want to apply what my lessons learned here. And that's a story. And, you know, that puts you from going from top 5% to top 1%.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you got to remember, if you look at any of these other review shows, storytelling isn't like an add-on to what you do. It is the complete value of what you do. And it's the same for recruitment as well. Because if you're able to sit in here and tell a great story about yourself, it doesn't have to be amazing. Just put it all together and then give that to a potential employer. They get it.
And obviously your favorite one, follow up.
Follow up. Yeah. Yeah, you have a story, but don't just leave it on the table. There's also part 2.
Yeah. Great. So
Are we done on the... Yeah, so thanks for joining us, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed this little walk into the world of recruitment for founders and for you job seekers as well. Did I just say job seekers? Surely not. I meant, you know, startup talent, as we call you now. So if you're on either side of the table, go and check out the Pitchdeck Asia website and go and find some great examples of stories told and some maybe examples which aren't so great, but they're all good case studies that you can go and look at and find something that works for you and something that you can relate to and make your story a little bit more polished. So we're signing out. Hi, Graham Brown from Pitchdeck Asia. Pitchdeck Asia, powered by Pitchdeck Asia is all about giving startup founders a voice. We are a show to help startup founders share their journey. So if you enjoy these stories, then why not subscribe to our YouTube channel? There's the subscribe button over there. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on the journey. Leave a comment. I look forward to seeing you at the next episode.